Hello everyone, welcome back to Let's Play The Legend of Zelda, A Link to the Past. I am Mega400, and in today's episode we shall be heading towards the 5th dungeon of the Dark World. If it wasn't evident by the fact that that's what we've done in the past few episodes, let's head to the next dungeon. You do need the Flute Boy's Flute to get to this area. So yeah, it is a required item, and if you don't have it, well, you're screwed. This is the Swamp of Evil, which is the Desert of Mysteries Dark World equivalent. Swamp of Evil is a pretty evident name that this place is evil. It also requires the Ether Medallion, as you will soon see. So yeah, there's a lot of items that you would think would be not required items. You know, like the flute. I mean, it's very helpful, and you'd be stupid not to get it. But you would think it wouldn't be a required item, but it is. And really, the only medallion that you don't need is the not the Bombos Medallion, the one that you get on the cliff in the Desert Mystery. You have to work from the Dark World. You need the Quake and you need the Ether Medallion. The Ether one gotten near the Tower of Hera, and the Quake one was gotten, or I got that near from the fish in the Lake of Omen Ill. Though I still think Omen 3, or whatever I said it was, is a better name because it sounds cooler. But I do thank whoever corrected me on that in a previous video comment. Either way, we are going to head to the next dungeon, which is Misery Mire. Is it Misery Mire? I think it's Misery Mire. This place is... meh, it's not that bad. It's kind of a maze-like area, and if you're playing the game for the first time, you're probably going to have trouble navigating. But you'll eventually find your way. It's not like you'll get lost forever. You'll just be like, oh, I took a wrong path. I need to go, change it around. Which I do every single time I go in the dungeon anyway, because that's what I do. Unlike the Ice Dungeon, which probably is a lot harder and just more annoying in general. It rather is more annoying and bothersome in general. The Ice Dungeon, for the most part, is pretty linear. This is a less linear dungeon, which can cause some people problems, as it does me. But again, there are problems that aren't that hard to rectify. But yeah, we get also a new enemy in this dungeon, which we'll soon see. And no, it's not those jelly things, who are called Zols. I believe, yeah, Zols. Though I think calling them jellies are a much more fitting name than Zol. So here we have Wizrobes, and if you were surprised by their appearance, which you might be if you haven't played any old school Zelda games, yeah, this is back when Wizrobes resembled the Black Mage from Final Fantasy. In recent games, Wizrobes have been various things. There's, of course, Majora's Mask had the weird pig-like, Ganon, like, thin version of Ganon looking. It was weird. That Wizrobe was weird, and you fought him too many times. And then you had Wind Waker that had the bird-like Wizrobes. But back in the day, and in the 2D games, Wizrobes were Black Mages. No, I don't. It's kind of interesting to look at like Zelda enemies and their evolutions and how they change. Like Octoroks. I don't know if I mentioned this already. I probably have, but I'm gonna say it again. Octoroks. Octoroks they've changed so much throughout the entirety of the Zelda franchise. In the first game, they were like, at least from the sprite, they were like very fuzzy things. The little nose, and then they like in Minish Cap they have legs, and then of course like in Majora's Mask they're like water things that are like more like octopuses. In this game they almost look like little miniature guys with they don't look like they have legs. They look like little I kind of compare them to the Jawas almost a little bit. Not exactly, of course, but the Jawas from Star Wars. They kind of have that kind of feel to them, except for just I guess in the eyes. But I mean, overall, the Octoroks have changed their appearance quite a bit, which makes you wonder when Link says he's so hungry he could eat an Octorok, what exactly he wants to eat, because he could be wanting to eat octopus or I don't know where I'm going with that, but yeah, Octoroks are one of the probably most notable ones I feel that have changed. There are others definitely too, but yeah, it's interesting. I wouldn't mind making a chart actually. I probably should do this, a chart of just all the or if someone wants to, I would be interested in seeing a chart of all the like artwork or probably sprites, because that's what you see in game. Artwork would vary. You know, like the classic Zelda artwork for like the NES Zeldas is very abstract compared to the art, very different from the actual sprite, because you know sprites had to be a lot less detailed, and they were very detailed, almost realistically so, for the Zelda NES games. So sprite-wise, but like a sprite-by-sprite comparison, or you know, for like the 3D games, a render. Yeah, the 3D model of how the, I mean, they do that with Link. They have a comparison of what Link looks like in terms of how he changed. They could do that with all the enemies, too, because I think those would be more drastic than Link. Link is just kind of, I mean, a little bit, but he hasn't changed as nearly as much as the enemies, or some of them, at least. That's another thing, talking about 3D and 2D comparisons. Well, I wasn't really talking about it, but my whole thing on the sprite and model. 3D games, and I found myself falling into this trap. 3D games, I feel people in general, including me, have a high regard for them to tell a better story than 2D games. And what do I mean by this? Well, let's look at Zelda, or this game's plot of sorts. And I've said it's an okay plot, but basically, you have this figurehead, this puppet of sorts, who's being controlled by Ganondorf, who is in the Dark World, or this dark area, this other world, basically, controlling him. You don't see him until the end of the game. Spoilers, we see Ganon in this game. So you don't see him until the end of the game. The entire time, though, you're fighting this figurehead of sorts, who is kind of badass, and is the one who's, like, causing all the problems, at least as far as you're concerned. And you eventually do kill him, and then you face Ganondorf, and Ganondorf really doesn't play any direct role with Link the entire time. So that's basically the main plot, is that, you know, Ganondorf is manipulating events via someone else from a different area. Whereas, that plot I don't mind as much in 2D games, and I admit it's a huge bias, because I have complained numerous times, or at least have disliked the plot of Twilight Princess. Though I think it's an okay game, I have said the plot, I, among other people, don't like Zant. However, when you really think about it, that plot is exactly the same as this one, which could be an argument for unoriginality, which it is. But, I mean, in Twilight Princess you have, and again, spoilers, but I spoil things all the time, and really it's not that big of spoilers. You have Zant, who is a figurehead who comes across as badass at first, who is manipulating events in Hyrule, who is actually being controlled by Ganondorf in a different realm, who you don't see until the end of the game. And actually, the Zelda thing is similar, because you see Zelda at the beginning of this game, and then you don't see her till like near the end, because she gets disappeared, and that's kind of what happens in Twilight Princess. Yeah, Twilight Princess's plot is entirely a ripoff. I mean, I knew the whole Ganondorf thing, but like, even more so, it's kind of, I mean, there's alterations, but like, people say it's a game based off Ocarina of Time. Maybe it's based off Ocarina of Time in terms of how it's, you know, layouts, and like, they said it's what they would want Ocarina of Time to be if they had the graphical comparison. I believe the developer said that. Oh, and by the way, we got the Cane of Samaria. This cane allows us to make blocks, and when you get rid of those blocks, it shoots fireballs. It's kind of an odd cane, and it's used in other Zelda games too, most notably Four Swords Adventure, though I know that game is takes a lot from Link to the Past, but basically, I won't be using it that much in this game, because you really don't use it all that much. But it's a cane, so, and it's better than the Cane of Pocky, which makes things flip upside down, which is still weird. I mean, making blocks is not much better, but I think it's better than making things close. Well, I don't know. Anyway, but anyway, yeah, the plot is entirely, of Twilight Princess is entirely based off of Link to the Past. Again, I say the layout was what was derived from Ocarina of Time, but definitely the basic plot was derived exclusively from Link to the Past. Anyway, my point is, without rambling on too much about nonsensically not making any sense. Yeah, yeah, so the thing is, it's the same plot, and yet I criticize Twilight Princess's plot, but I don't criticize this plot. And the reason I admit this, is back in the day at least, and even now, 2D games, for whatever reason, they don't put as much emphasis on the plot. I mean, it's there, but the plot is not nearly as emphasized, and I don't know why it doesn't have the same feel. I think part of it is the fact that the three-dimensional aspect, the fact that, you know, 3D in terms of like 3D perspective, 3D rendered models, it makes it feel like it's more there and more for you, or that you're more a part of it. It makes you feel more immersed than a 2D game. So for a 2D game, you're not as focused on the story, and you're more focused on the gameplay aspect. And the story aspect I don't think is played as much. But yeah, the gameplay I feel is a much bigger focus on 2D games, mostly just due to the fact that, again, with 2D games you're almost do the perspective. You're looking in. With 3D, even the not the least high quality 3D game, there is definitely a bit more immersion because of the perspective thing. Third person perspective or first person, either way, there's still more immersion than a 2D game, which is just all laid out for you. So for a 2D game, the gameplay is more important than the story, because the story the game isn't immersing you as much into the story. Now, I don't know if that's 100, you know, that's kind of my take on it. I mean, the thing is, I admit, if you look at this game, its story is very bland, and there are 2D games that have great stories. This game is not one of them, necessarily. The plot is very basic. I think, again, the whole thing I talked about, you know, some of the feelings that makes you care and stuff, a lot of those, though, are very either not intentional or just very subtle, just afterthoughts of sorts, or things I just derived because I like to analyze things way too much. But really, the main focus of this game is definitely gameplay. It's not necessarily the story. It's not setting out, though, of course, to tell a great story. I don't think I don't think Twilight Princess is doing that either. I don't think that game ever intended to tell a great story. That was never its purpose. Some games do try and tell a great story, and really depends on, like, you know, some games, especially RPGs, in my opinion, need a good story to be a good game. You know, story is much more important in RPGs than it is a platformer, but, you know, with this, the issue, I think, though, is with 3D games, whether or not, you know, the mission attempt for Twilight Princess might be the same as A Link to the Past, but at least I don't know about others, see this game as the story being a weakness, the story being weak, not being a weakness to the game, whereas in, you know, Twilight Princess it is. And also the thing is, I think the other thing is with the characters, the fact that there is more characters and interaction with characters in Twilight Princess, and the fact that the plot is weak. I mean, there is some character interaction in this game, but really there's not that much. Most of it's just go here, it's the gameplay aspect. And that's another reason why, again, I'm never going to not bring this game up, but that's another reason I think Ocarina of Time disappoints me, is because you interact with characters, and yet the story... Well, it's not that the story doesn't hold up, but you interact with characters, but the characterization doesn't hold up. In Twilight Princess, there is the characterization aspect, but the plot is more unoriginal, really unoriginal plot, because it's, you know, the same plot as this, but... And it's not really that great of a plot either, but... you know, I think honestly, yeah, the immersion aspect of 3D does affect our perspective on how important story is in the game. And here's probably one of the easiest bosses in the game. I say definitely of the Dark World, because look how easy, even though I do get hit by the lightning, and I'm getting hit right now, that sucks. But like, I already took out half that guy's eyes. This is Victorious, Vati, how do you pronounce his name? Vertius. I'm never gonna pronounce his name, but it starts with a V and has I's and E's and R's and stuff in there. He's an eyeball thing, basically. I'm gonna call him Eyeball Man. So Eyeball Man here, basically, I mean, his weakness is the arrows, but you can kill him with the sword quite easily, and I think if you walk in the slime, it might damage you, but again, it doesn't matter, or I think actually that blob protects him, not that it'll damage you, but either way, yeah, this guy is pretty pathetic. I mean, I could take damage and almost die, but he's not really putting up too much of a fight unless I make a careless mistake like I just did there. And he's dead, yeah. This guy's really sad as a boss. Poor Eyeball Man. You weren't nearly as cool as the Crackle ripoff from the last dungeon. Do. Only one more maiden, and then we can have, or, well, technically the last maiden is Zelda, but all we need is one more girl, and we'll have all the girls for our collection. Do. Because of you, I can... Okay, we heard this whole spiel again. Continue onward with more stuff. Captured us because he couldn't break the steel of the wise man with his power alone. And then using the wizard Agnum as a... You know, this is the same stuff we already know, so there's not really any point in saying all this stuff over again. You should say something like... Talk about the weather or something, or how much you love McDonald's food. I don't know. Anyway, Zelda is the last one in Turtle Rock. This has been Mega Freak 400, and next time we will be doing more stuff in this game. So, I am reminding you that I love to lick pepperoni. Yeah.